Hi, and welcome to my channel, The Grape Jelly Library. I'm so glad you could join me. I always look forward to your visit. Today, I am wearing these beautiful, can you see them? White stone with navy blue speckles on them. They were given to me as a gift from Tara. I ordered a mystical packet. She puts together scents and she makes homemade soaps, scented soaps. They smell wonderful. Sachets for your drawers, some roll-ons, and some parfums, and some room sprays, body sprays, car sprays. I sprayed my library here. It smells divine. It smells like fresh cut roses and like perhaps a couple of fairies were playing around in here whilst I was away. It smells lovely. So I'm going to link her shop in the description. I believe it's Tara's Mystical Treasure Troves. So if you are looking for some unique items, what she does is you reach out to her and then she kind of gets a vibe. I'll tell you what, she nailed these earrings. She felt that these would be a good match for me, and they absolutely are. I love them. I love them. I think they're so pretty. Thank you, Tara. But anyways, she gets a vibe, and then she concocts, well, creates, there's a better word. She creates and infuses certain scents together based on the vibe that she's getting from you. And then she also prays over them, and then she'll send them out in the mail to you. And when you're a hard-working business girl, I like to give shout outs because it's not easy out there. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And if I can do anything to help somebody out, I absolutely will. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this little sachet and I am going to tuck it right here inside of this flower arrangement that I made. For those of you who didn't see my arrangement, I'll try to show you it. Okay, so can you see? I thought I would do a flower arrangement in the colors of the library. And so I found this chalkboard box, and so on each side I wrote something. Find it in a book. Extra, read all about it. Book and adventure. And books are the answer, because they certainly are. So, a lot going on as per usual. I celebrated the holiday. Family came over. I have a birthday coming up, so they gave me a little pre-surprise birthday, which was wonderful. My son and his family came in. It really was a fun time. Lovely. Me and my sister skipped a little rope in the backyard because the weather was fairly decent. Today, not so much. We got some snow. Ugh. And I'm bearing with it because I'm told that by Sunday, our temperatures should reach about 70 with sun, and I am going to keep my sights focused in on that and know that better days are ahead. Right, so yesterday, I had a dentist appointment. Generally, I don't mind them. It's behind me. Let's mosey on. Something came in the mail for me today. It did. I got notification through an email that my package has arrived. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't hardly order no package. And then it told me what the package was. So I ran downstairs to fetch it out of the mailbox. No shadow on that. Well, we're not going to do too good. I'll just leave it right there. Is she a beaut or what? I'm going to tell you how this book came to be. I was doing my thing around the house, and of course I had a booktube channel on. I was listening, and I think her name is Emma. In her description, she said there was a lot of like bodily fluid. It was disgusting as far as human anatomy goes, and really, really gross. All right, so guess what? In my pre-birthday celebration, I got some gift cards. I got some moolah. What do you do with the moolah? We are buying all the books. I am all about the strength of a community and of individuals when hardship, should I say, befalls them? Is that the way to say it? This is Agnes Remembered, 50 years after Wyoming Valley's worst disaster. So, Agnes was a tropical storm that came through Wilkes-Barre, Plymouth, Wyoming, with such force. It wasn't expected to be really anything, but it turned into something, and it turned into something devastating. I was just a baby when this happened. I don't think my family has but only one picture. It was really something. Look at that poor diner. Don't know if anybody ever heard of McMurtry's before. But oh, all that merchandise that was lost. Look at that. Oh my goodness. So I just like, I could spend hours on this book. President Nixon coming to the area to console the flood victims. All that debris in the street. Oh God, you can't even really make out what that is. Just terrible. The cover photo of the cemetery. Up to the street signs. Somebody's kitchen. Did anybody have an Acme near them? So everybody just like put their stuff out to the curb. So now we have some everyday people cleaning up the mess, scrubbing some walls. Okay, so right here in this picture is the street that I grew up on. I lived right around here where these trees are. That is my street that I grew up on for most of my life. So when I saw this book, the price tag on it was $44. But to me, it was worth every penny because this book speaks to my heart. And those people worked hard and they fixed their houses and they rebuilt their lives and they overcame that tragedy. I don't know how they did it, but they did. Growing up on that street and in that time, perhaps it was because of that tragedy that people were just a little bit more kinder and nicer to one another. Okay, so I'm not trying to make today a long video, but I fear I just don't have any choice in the matter. With the stack of books that I have before me, that I am excited to bring to your table, here is my pile of birthday books. It's a pretty heavy stack there. We will go through these books one by one for your viewing pleasure and informational gatherings. A Confederacy of Dunces, John Kennedy Toole. A Confederacy of Dunces is an American comic masterpiece. John Kennedy Toole's hero is one Ignatius J. Riley, huge, obese, fractious, fastidious, a latter-day gargantua. His story bursts with wholly original characters, denizens of New Orleans, lower depths, incredibly true-to-life dialogue, and the zaniest series of high and low comic adventures. The Trouble with Happiness, Tove Ditlevsen. A newly married woman longs irrationally for a silk umbrella. A husband chases away his wife's beloved cat. A betrayed mother impulsively sacks her housekeeper. Underneath the surface of these precisely observed tales of marriage and family life in mid-century Copenhagen, pulse currents of desire, violence, and despair as women and men struggle to escape from the roles assigned to them and dream of becoming free and happy, without ever truly understanding what that might mean. The President and the Frog, Carolina de Robertis. President and the Frog is a story about stories and how to remember the seeds we can be even in the bleakest times. There is such lucid tenderness in the book, but it is also wild and funny, and we move through time. We return again and again to love, to growth, but through struggle and madness, and yes, magnanimous conversations with a frog. This book and Carolina de Robertis's vision are a beautiful, shattered dance. The Language of Flowers, Vanessa Diffenbaugh. In Victorian times, the language of flowers was used to convey romantic expressions. But for Victoria Jones, it's been more useful in communicating mistrust and solitude. After an isolated childhood spent in the foster care system, her only connection to the world is through flowers and their meetings. Now 18 and emancipated from the system with nowhere to go, Victoria realizes she has a gift for helping others through the flowers she chooses for them. But an unexpected encounter with a mysterious stranger has her questioning what's been missing in her life. And when she's forced to confront a painful secret from her past, she must decide whether it's worth risking everything for a second chance at happiness. Jacket Weather, Mike DeCapite. Mike knew June in New York's downtown music scene in the 80s. Back then, he thought she was the living night, all the glamour and potential of a New York night when you're 25. Now he's twice divorced and happy to be alone. So happy he's writing a book about it. Then he meets June again, and here she was with a raincoat over the back of the chair, talking about getting a divorce and saying she's done with relationships. Her ice-calm eyes are the same her glory of curls. Jacket Weather is about awakening to love, dizzying, all-consuming worldview, shaking love when it's least expected. It's also about remaining alert to today's pleasures, exploring the city, observing the seasons, listening to the guys at the gym while time is slipping away. Told in fragments of narrative, reveries, recipes, bits of conversation, and snatches of weather, the book collapses a decade in Mike and June's life and shifts the reader to a glowing nostalgia for the present. Larry McMurtry, a novel, Lonesome Dove. I hope you can see that. A love story, an adventure, and an epic of the frontier. Larry McMurtry's Pulitzer Prize-winning classic, Lonesome Dove, the third book in the Lonesome Dove tetralogy, is the grandest novel ever written about the last defiant wilderness of America. Journey to the dusty little Texas town of Lonesome Dove and meet an unforgettable assortment of heroes and outlaws, whores and ladies, Indians and settlers. Richly authentic, beautifully written, always dramatic, Lonesome Dove is a book to make us laugh, weep, dream, and remember. So I thought I wanted this and that it would be reminiscent of East of Eden, my favorite, before the Honey Bus came along, by Meredith May. Okay, so I thought what I thought, and I put it down, and then I went back to it and I said, let me do the old trick of reading the first page, and I would know if this book was going to be for me, just the same as I did for East of Eden. Like the first paragraph, and I was sold. So let me see if it works. When Augustus came out on the porch, the blue pigs were eating a rattlesnake, not a very big one. It had probably just been crawling around looking for shade when it ran into the pigs. They were having a fine tug-of-war with it, and its rattling days were over. The sow had it by the neck, and the shoat had the tail. You pigs get, Augustus said, kicking the shoat. Head on down to the creek if you want to eat that snake. It was the porch he begrudged them, not the snake. Pigs on the porch just made things hotter, and things were already hot enough. He stepped down into the dusty yard and walked around to the spring house to get his jug. The sun was still high, sullen in the sky like a mule, but Augustus had a keen eye for sun, and to his eye the long light from the west had taken an encouraging slant. Well, I've already read too much of that. I was already sold with the first few sentences. I just didn't want to, I wanted to leave you with a complete thought. I didn't want to like leave it off willy-nilly like I do. Okay, Cloud Splitter, Russell Banks. A triumph of the imagination and a masterpiece of modern storytelling. Cloud Splitter is narrated by the enigmatic Owen Brown, last surviving son of America's most famous and still controversial political terrorist and martyr, John Brown. Deeply researched, brilliantly plotted, and peopled with a cast of unforgettable characters, both historical and wholly invented, Cloud Splitter is dazzling in its recreation of the political and social landscape of our history during the years before the Civil War, when slavery was tearing the country apart. But within this broader scope, Russell Banks has given us riveting, suspenseful, heartbreaking narrative filled with intimate scenes of domestic life, of violence and action in battle, of romance and familiar life and death that make the reader feel in astonishing ways what it was like to be alive in that time. And isn't that the purpose of a book? To take you somewhere other than where you are. I am excited about this one. Empire of Rubber, Greg Mittman. In the early 1920s, Americans owned 80% of the world's automobiles and consumed 75% of the world's rubber, but only 1% of the world's rubber grew under the U.S. flag, threatening the nation's explosive economic expansion. To solve this conundrum, the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company turned to a tiny West African nation, Liberia, founded in 1847 as a free black republic. Empire of Rubber tells of a sweeping story of capitalism, racial exploitation, environmental devastation, and resistance as Firestone transformed Liberia into America's rubber empire. The Girls in the Wild Fig Tree. When I read the synopsis about this, oh my God. Two sisters are raised in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya, in a deeply traditional and conservative rural community. Like all Maasai girls, Nice and Soila grow up knowing that one day they must submit to the same brutal coming-of-age female genital mutilation ritual that their mothers and their mothers before them were forced to endure. One sister bows to the expectations of her community. The other sister decides the sacrifice she is being asked to make is too inhumane and refuses to take part. This is the story of Nice Lenget. I don't know how to say that. Lenget, who ran from her village to forge her own path in a world that she knew little about. On the eve of their first ceremony, terrified and not wanting to be mutilated, Nice and Soila climb a tree to hide. Soila had seen women endure the cut, and she deeply understood the impossibility of escaping it. But maybe if Soila submitted to the mutilation, giving up herself and her body, Nice could be spared. Through Soila's act of sacrifice, Nice was able to stay in school, though for years she was treated like an outcast. But through Nice's tireless advocacy, she demonstrated the positive impact of women's education and changed the minds of the tribe's male elders. By creating alternative rites of passage for young women and men who honor tradition while looking to the future of the Maasai, Nice's village has stopped FGM entirely. So that's that. And lastly, the complete guide to self-care, best practices for a healthier and happier you, Kiki Eli. So friends, there you have it. They are my birthday book picks. I think I did good. Did I do good? I think I did. Comment below if there's something that interested you or something that you have already read. Some of the books fun, some of the books crazy, some of the books unbelievable, and some of the books adventurous, some of the books informative. I think I covered all the bases. Now would be a perfect time to end the video, as I feel I may have taken up just a wee bit too much of your time. But in a good way, I hope. I love you. I do. I do. I do. I wish you well. I wish you the energy of a 6-year-old.